ho, 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 we are bad as hell. Why weren't you at elf practice? I want to be tier 3. Good afternoon, jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Well, there was a new ban list, and usually we'll move heaven and earth to get through a TMT that deals with the implications. But, nothing was really changed in a meaningful way. We could run back Draco Tail with one Ketu, I guess. So, in lieu of subjecting you to the 8th Vanquish Soul TMT on this channel, we're instead going to push through with our previously scheduled programming. Next on the BitBro plate, Elfnotes.
It seems I'm not an elf.
Of course you're not.
So here's the list. As always, I'll give you background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Despite what some Yu-Gi-Tubers who shall not be named would have you believe, the TCG is alive and well. And if you're looking to start your journey into paper, there's no better place to begin than Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. With up-to-the-minute reporting on every major tournament worldwide, searchable and interactable pie charts and deck lists, and all the bells and whistles you've come to expect from one of the best draft and collection management sites on the net, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the place to be. Check it out today at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's examine Elfnotes. Elfnotes is another entry into the Medius storyline, where our protagonist is passed around like a 2009 crush card virus or me before Twink Death. This time he's run into the Elfnotes, a series of singing elves a la Rudolph. But elf practice ain't on these monsters' minds. They all want center stage. Each of them can be specialed to the middle main monster zone and moved around on your opponent's turn to trigger quick effects as they castle around your zones. The payoff to these elusive elves is a bounce, a hand rip, and a spell trap pop, which you might recognize as not nearly sufficient, even in a world where the yummies forgot how to ritual and the canine are neutered. So, we're playing Fiendsmith. According to my metrics, there isn't a single thing I could say that would more turn off potential viewers than it's a Fiendsmith deck, but be reasonable. When was the last time you saw Engraver and friends do anything other than lose? Our way there is hilarious, either by using the modifications on Theoralize or by synchro summoning our Mateys, who just so happens to be a light fiend. We can make it up the chain. We could even go backwards by making Aerial Eater, sending the patron, making Cross Sheep, and bringing it back. See? I'm not coping. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, our Elfnotes. 3 copies of Lucina, who can be specialed from your hand to the center main monster zone. During your main phase, can add an Elfnotes monster from your deck to your hand, and as a quick, can switch locations with the card in your center main monster zone, and then return a level 6 or lower monster your opponent controls to the hand. Diana can also be specialed from your hand to the center main monster zone, adds an Elfnotes continuous spell from your deck to your face-up field, and can switch with the card in your center main monster zone, then banish a random card from your opponent's hand until the end phase. Fortuna can also be specialed from the hand to your center main monster zone. During the main phase, places an Elfnotes continuous trap from your hand or deck face up on your field, and can switch positions with the monster in your center main monster zone to return a face up spell trap on the field to the hand. Finally, we've got Elfnotes Power Patron, who prevents you from specialing from the extra deck except synchros. During the main phase, can target a monster in your center main monster zone, increase its level by 3, then synchro summon an Elfnotes or a Junora, the Power Patron of Tuning, and if sent to the graveyard as synchro material, can add an Elfnotes card from your deck to your hand. After that, we've got 3 copies of Medius the Pure, which of course can summon a Power Patron, 3 copies of Fiendsmith Engraver, a Lacrima of the Crimson Tears, and a Fabled Lurie. We've got 3 copies of Theo Realize, which I think I should probably read out to you because it is so critical to this strategy. It sends a Medius from your deck to the graveyard and allows you to look at the top card of your opponent's deck and then either place it on the top or the bottom. It can also be banished to target a face of monster you control and declare a monster type and attribute, changing the type and attribute of that monster, usually to a light fiend. And of course, Medius can reborn himself from the graveyard, so it's functionally a Rhoda that minuses you. After that, we've got Elfnotes Homecoming Parallelism, which says the monster in your center MMZ can't be destroyed by card effects. You can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard to special summon an Elfnotes with a different original attribute from your deck and defense position, and you are locked except for synchro summoning for the rest of the turn. We've got a Fiendsmith's Tract, and then Maddening Rhapsodia, which says while you have a monster in your center MMZ, your opponent's monsters can't attack except that monster, and you can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard to target an Elfnotes in your graveyard with a different attribute to special summon it. Then if you control a synchro monster, negate the effects of a face-up card your opponent controls until the end of the turn. Finally, we are on Fiendsmith in Paradise. For non-engine, we are on 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Fuwalos, 3 Nibiru, a Called by the Grave, and 3 Infinite Impermanence in the extra. We've got the Fiendsmith package, we've got a Requiem, we've got a Sequence, we've got some 6s, Wave High King Caesar and Lars, we've got Lacrima and Desiree and Aerial Eater and Necroquip, but we've also got Craw Sheep, SP Little Knight, Armades Keeper of Boundaries, Adamancipator Risen Dragite, Fabled, and 2 Elfnotes specific synchros. First up is Zia. This card's original attack becomes 3,000 while in the center MMZ, and during the main phase can special summon a level 6 or lower Elfnotes from your hand to graveyard, then decrease the level of all level 4 or higher monsters currently on the field by 3 until the end of the turn, and you are locked for the rest of the turn except for synchros. We're also playing a Junora, the Power Patron of Tuning, which for its synchro summon can treat a monster in the main monster zone as a tuner. If synchro summoned, can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls, and as a quick, can make all monsters your opponent currently controls in the same column as your Elfnote monsters unable to be used as material for an extra deck summon until the end of the turn. In the side, we've got 3 copies of Perulia, 3 Lightning Storm, 3 Evenly Matched, 3 Retaliating Sea, and 3 Artifact Lancia. I think we can actually probably drop this one momentarily. Let's get into the games. Our first match is up against Orcust, and yes, I realize they only have 1 point of non-interaction. It's the Mulcharmy Fuwalos, for which we have a couple of answers in the hand. This is, as you may have suspected, the court-ordered showing you what the deck can do when uninterrupted replay. We're going to begin with a copy of Theo Realize, not the best starter, but does get us there. We will tuck a copy of our opponent's top card into a Medius activation. They'll Fuwalos, we will Called by the Grave, and a Point of Resolution, we'll just go ahead and get our Power Patron out of the deck. We will perform a Synchro Summon afterwards in order to make a copy of Armades, who is a Light Fiend. We'll trigger the effect of the Power Patron to grab a Diana, and then go Requiem into the Fiendsmith line. Here going Lacrima in order to send a Fiendsmith to the yard, then activating the Fiendsmith effect in order to shuffle back the Armades and summon itself. From here we can make a sequence and shuffle back everything but the Fiendsmith in order to keep it in yard for the Lacrima that was just unbanned, bringing back this copy of Fiendsmith so we can overlay for a copy of Wave High King Caesar before we commit to our Elfnotes. Down comes Diana, we'll get the continuous spell, activate Parallelism to get a Lucina, activate Lucina's effect to get our last remaining name, and special summon it out in order to get the trap. Here we can activate the effect of our Rhapsodia in order to cycle back for our Power Patron and go into a Stilza as well, summoning the Diana in our center main monster zone at the end of the combo. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Infinite Impermanence, but thankfully we can check that with the Rhapsodia. We'll cycle back for the Fortuna as they go for the Foolish Burial Goods to send the Black Goat Laughs. They'll trigger Wave High King Caesar, then use the effect of their Gearsu Orcus Mechanite into a copy of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring into the activation of our Synchro, bringing back Lucina. We'll trigger its effect, cycling and bouncing their monster back to their hand before cycling again to banish a card from their grip. From here, we should be able to lock it up. We'll just switch our monster to attack position, get to the battle phase, and get in for lethal. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, for game 2, we're playing against another Medius strategy, the Distant Coder Special, Archmage Canine. We are going second, but thanks to the Droll and Lockbird in our hand, we're not going to be going second for long. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Alteration into the Acropolis, activate the effect for a Graflair, and walk straight into a Droll and Lockbird. Well, that's going to look like a Graflair pass. They at least get a copy of Succession for their troubles, and they'll pass back to us. That's a pretty good one. We're going to begin with a copy of Engraver. We'll activate the effect into an Ash, but that turns on the Izuna in our opponent's hand. They'll trigger the effect, but thankfully they've done so on an empty board, so we are permitted to Infinite Impermanence it and keep them off of Lupus. From here, we'll go for the Lucina, activate its effect in order to grab a copy of Diana, then go for Theo Realize in order to send a Medius. Afterwards, we are going to activate the effect of the Medius to summon itself back, and then activate its effect on field into a Succession. From here, our opponent can make a Chimera with the entire hand. We will add the Power Patron to the grip as they blow up our board, and then we'll go for a Diana in the center main monster zone for a Homecoming Parallelism. Then we will Synchro Summon out a copy of Stilza, getting our last remaining name here, the Fortuna, activating the graveyard effect of the Theo Realize to make it a Light Fiend, and what do you know, now we can get to the Fiendsmith line anyway. Down comes Lacrima, we'll activate the effect, sending another copy of the Engraver to the graveyard, shuffle one back for the other, summon it to our side of the field, and now we can use the Requiem in order to send this copy of Guardian Chimera to the yard as well. Finally, we will make a Fiendsmith's sequence, activate its effect, shuffling a couple back for a copy of Lacrima, activating the Lacrima effect to summon back the Engraver we kept in the yard, and then activate the effect of the Stilza to bring back the Fortuna, whose effect will trigger for the trap. From here, we can go to the battle phase and get in for, I think, just a little bit over lethal. Remember, we always had access to the Lacrima as well. Ooh, let's cycle. That's a funnier way to do it. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on what else but Draco Tail, and this is filmed before the ban list, so when you see multiple Ketus, I urge you not to get upset to. We've got a Droll and Lockbird, but not a lot else. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Ketu, triggering it immediately, but they already have access to Malulu, so who cares? They'll go Malulu effect in order to fusion summon a copy of Arthalion using the entire hand. Arthalion target the entire graveyard into Urgula, into Phimena, into Pan, in order to set a copy of Rahu, a copy of Horn, and a copy of Flame. They are going to return the entire grip to the grip before activating Rahu into a Gulamel, triggering the effect of the Lucius in order to set the missing Sting, and then activating the Urgula to get the Lucius back. They'll set one more card and pass it back to us. We've got a toughie ahead of us. We're going to begin with a copy of Diana. We'll activate the effect in order to grab the continuous spell into Medius. They're going to Malulu in response and Gulamel in response to that, and Fallen in the Virtuous in response to that to send our Medius to the yard. They will fusion summon a copy of Arthalion as we summon the Power Patron. They'll activate the Arthalion targeting the graveyard into Pan, into Lucius. We get to trigger the Power Patron, but they will horn targeting our Diana. We can at least contest that with Ash Blossom, but it's not going to get us very far. They get to set 2 copies of Ketu. We would have won if not for that, and then we lose our copy of Diana. We'll trigger the effect of the Medius here into the Sting, and that should be all she wrote. Okay, let's go next. So it's time for game 2, and geez, is that enough Theo Realize or what? Okay, well, at least we will be able to activate the Engraver into an Ash Blossom, clearing the way for one of our 3 Theo Realizes. We'll send a Medius to the yard, and then, of course, we can summon the Medius from the yard by shuffling back the Power Patron, activating its effect to summon out the Power Patron, and then afterwards synchroing for an Armades, triggering the Power Patron to get ourselves a copy of Diana. We'll go into Requiem, activate its effect in order to summon out a Lacrima, activate the Lacrima's effect in order to send another Engraver to the yard, Engraver back the Armades, so that we can make a sequence into a Femina trigger here. They're going to make Arthalion, but this is kind of all they have going, and that's fine with us because we still have a little bit of extension through this. We'll go Diana here. We'll activate the effect for the continuous spell, activate the continuous spell for a Lucina, then trigger the Lucina in order to grab our last remaining name. We'll go for Tona, activate her effect, grab the trap, cycle with the trap for the Power Patron into a Stiltza, who now has 3,000 attack because it's in the center main monster zone. We'll bring back Diana, then activate its effect, swapping in order to banish a card, and use the effect of the Lacrima in graveyard to get a Requiem to our side of the field as well. As soon as possible, we're going to go Lacrima effect in order to send a copy of Fiendsmith in Paradise to the yard. They'll go Ketu, but we can stop that with the Maddening Rhapsonia, bringing back the Lucina as well. We can trigger the Stiltza here, bring back the Power Patron, and the Power Patron targeting our Diana to make a copy of Junora, the Power Patron of Tuning. This is going to prevent our opponent from doing anything as they pass back to us, and we should just be able to win from this position. They'll go Horn, but we can, of course, contest that with Rhapsodia, bringing back the Diana in the process, and from here we will just go ahead and activate Engraver and go through the line. They will go for the 5 mana, but that's just not enough. We're going to prevent them from using it as material, and they just don't have the material to continue past it. Theo Realize here is going to be able to modulate, and then we can use the effect of our Requiem on our Engraver in order to send their last remaining monster on the way to High King Caesar. Finally, we will use the Stiltzia to make way for a Dragite as they go for the graveyard effect of the Arthalion, which of course is contested by the Wave High King. From here, we can go to the battle phase and get in for 28, 3k, and 31. All right, 1 down. So it's time for that all-important game 3, and I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, this is pretty much exactly what we want to see going second, sans, of course, the Elfnotes cards. Now, of course, we do have access to the Fuulos, so maybe we'll find our way to them. They're going to go for Ketu. Afterwards, they'll go Femina. We will chain Fuulos, and they don't have anything with which to contest it, which is great news. They'll go Arthalion. We'll draw a card. That is a pretty great equalizer. They get to trigger the Urgula and the Femina and the Labubu as well in order to set a copy of Rahu Dracotail and Dracotail Horn and Dracotail Sting and resolve the effect of the Arthalion to get the entire graveyard back to the grip. We will Ash Blossom this Rahu, and they will be forced to go Malulu effect to fuse into a Gulamel. We get to draw another card, but they get to use the Urgula to bring back the Femina before they pass turn. Okay, we'll draw for turn. That's a little late. We'll go to the battle phase and use Evenly Matched. They will chain Horn. That is something. It brings them down to just a Sting. We will go Engraver. Unfortunately, Sting is a pretty good one. We'll go Tracked into a Lurie here. We'll activate its effect, forcing out the Sting. And God, my kingdom for an Elfnotes. We'll just set a couple of cards and proceed to end phase, at which point they can use the Femina in hand in order to make an Arthalion. That's going to trigger the effect of the Labubu and the Arthalion to get a copy of Rahu and a copy of Ketu. Again, we just would have won if they didn't have more than one. We'll scoop it up. So we're back with the deck, and losing to the B-Diff is fine. Certainly not a new experience for Medius. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's nice to once again be playing a deck that bridges both ways, either through Fiendsmith into the Elfnotes or through the Elfnotes into Fiendsmith. It's like Yummy Mitsurugi if instead of searching Habakiri, you were searching Bulk. 2, the Elfnotes are really easy to summon. Bodies come out early and represent interaction even into interruption. And 3, small engine. You get to play a lot of hand traps. And the cons. 1, the deck is not great going second. Obviously, the Fiendsmith does some heavy lifting, but not nearly enough to, win games. 2, it's got a real problem with graveyard hate. Not a great place to be when Dracotail's expected to be best deck. Sting, anyone? And 3, it's weak to spot removal. You really need the bodies to stick, and everyone's already prepped to keep the yummies off the board. All in all, this Medius deck looks to be about as good as all the others. By that I mean, we'll wait for Distant Coder to break it. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have handed me a lump sum in order to be mentioned at the end of this video. Those people are Absolutely Fran, Elena Tincher, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Broski TCG, Cap, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, DJ Elefante, El Gravo, Emiliano Deverio, NB Adams, Fabrizio Petroli, Galactic Joey, Hergalicious, Jackie Z, James Place, JP, Cole Offline, Legal Rights, Lucas Rosas, Luis Hernandez, Master Key 090, Matthew M. Derezo, MBT Hablando en Español, MBT Play Medolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho, Pombo, Pyramid Artisan Field Cloths, TCG Accessories, Rancer My Thing, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shifter.mp8, Sly Ninja 43, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Who's Nick, Yuki Kazami, and Zircon Sun. Couldn't have done it without you.